A manager's grip tightened on her wrist, not because she'd made a mistake, but because a customer had dared to speak to her. In that bathroom, cornered and shaking, she heard the words she'd believed about herself for years. But outside that door stood a stranger who'd been waiting 5 years for this exact moment. And what he was about to do would change everything. Lavinia's face burned as Mr. Garrett's hand wrapped around her wrist like a vice. The dessert she'd just delivered, the chocolate soufflé that had taken Chef Marcus 20 minutes to perfect, sat untouched on table 9. And the man sitting there, the one with the salt and pepper hair and the quiet eyes, had just asked her a simple question. "Miss, do you have a moment?" That's all it took. That's all it ever took with Mr. Garrett. "You don't talk to customers," he hissed in her ear, his breath hot and angry. "You serve them and you walk away. That's it." He pulled her toward the back hallway, and Lavinia's feet stumbled trying to keep up. Her wrist ached. The other servers looked away like they always did. Like if they didn't see it, it wasn't really happening. The bathroom door flew open, and suddenly she was inside, her back against the sink, and Mr. Garrett was blocking the only way out. "What did I tell you about chatting with customers?" His face was red, that vein in his temple pulsing the way it did when he was really angry. "You think they want to talk to someone like you? You think they care what you have to say?" He just asked. Lavinia's voice cracked. She hated how weak she sounded. How small. "I don't care what he asked." Mr. Garrett stepped closer, and she pressed harder against the sink, the porcelain digging into her back. "You're here to bring food and take plates. That's it. You're nothing special, Lavinia. You're just another girl who couldn't hack it anywhere else, so you ended up here, serving people who are actually worth something." The words cut deeper than his grip on her wrist had. Because part of her believed them. Part of her had believed them for so long that they'd become the voice in her own head. She'd come to the city 3 years ago with a suitcase and a dream of becoming a teacher. She'd wanted to work with kids, help them love reading the way she did. But the teaching program cost money she didn't have. Her mom's medical bills had eaten through everything. And then her mom died anyway, and Lavinia was left with debt and grief and nowhere to go. So she'd taken the first job she could get. Then the second. Then the third. Each one worse than the last. Until she'd landed here, at the Lavender Room, where at least the tips were decent and the bruises Mr. Garrett left were only emotional. Mostly emotional. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." She forced her eyes up to meet his. They were cold, his eyes. Empty of anything human. "You're lucky I don't fire you right now," he said. "But I'm short-staffed tonight, so you get one more chance. What? You mess up again, you're done. Understand?" She nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. "Say it." "I understand," she whispered. He stared at her for another long moment, like he was trying to decide if she was worth the trouble. Then he turned and walked out, leaving the door swinging behind him. Lavinia's legs gave out. She slid down to the cold tile floor, her hands shaking so badly she had to clasp them together to make them stop. The tears came whether she wanted them to or not, hot and angry and full of shame. She wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't supposed to be her life. But it was. And there was no way out. She gave herself 2 minutes this time. 2 minutes to fall apart. Then she stood up, washed her face in the sink, and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were red. Her hair was messy. She looked exactly like what Mr. Garrett said she was, someone who couldn't hack it anywhere else. She fixed her ponytail, smoothed down her apron, put the smile back on. When she walked back into the dining room, she avoided looking at table 9. Avoided the man with the quiet eyes who'd gotten her in trouble just by asking a simple question. But she could feel him watching her. Could feel his gaze following her as she moved between tables, refilling water glasses, clearing plates, pretending everything was fine. The dinner rush hit hard around 7. The restaurant filled up with couples celebrating anniversaries, families with 2 loud children, business people talking in hushed voices about deals and contracts. Lavinia moved through it all like a ghost, barely there, barely real. Her feet ached. Her wrist throbbed where Mr. Garrett had grabbed it. She could see the red marks starting to turn purple. Table 9's check sat in her apron pocket. The man had paid an hour ago, left a tip that was more than generous, and walked out without saying another word to her. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt something else. Something like disappointment. Like maybe, for just a second, someone had seen her. Really seen her. And she'd been too afraid to let them. It was almost 10 when her shift finally ended. She clocked out, grabbed her coat from the employee closet, and headed for the back door. The alley behind the restaurant was dark and smelled like garbage, but it was faster than going through the front. She was digging in her purse for her phone when she heard the footsteps behind her. Her whole body went cold. She spun around, her keys clutched between her fingers like a weapon. But it wasn't Mr. Garrett. It was the man from Table 9. He stood at the mouth of the alley, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable in the dim light from the street lamp. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice was quiet, careful. "I didn't mean to startle you." Lavinia's heart hammered. "What do you want?" "To apologize." He took a step closer and she took a step back. He stopped immediately. "I got you in trouble earlier. That wasn't my intention." "It's fine." The lie came automatically. Everything was always fine. "I should get going." "Wait." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "I know this is going to sound strange, but I need to tell you something. That man, your manager, the way he treats you isn't okay. What I saw tonight—" "You didn't see anything," Lavinia said quickly. Too quickly. "Nothing happened." "I heard him." The man's voice was firm now. "Through the door. I heard what he said to you." Shame crashed over her like a wave. Someone had heard. Someone knew. "Please don't make trouble. If you complain, he'll fire me. I need this job." No one should need a job that badly. The words hung in the air between them, and Lavinia felt something crack inside her chest. Because he was right. And because she did need it that badly. And because those two truths couldn't exist in the same world. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I have nowhere else to go." The man was quiet for a long moment. Then he held out the business card. "My name is Theodore Brennan. I'm a lawyer. I specialize in workplace abuse cases. What's happening to you? It's illegal. And I can help you." Lavinia stared at the card like it was a bomb. "I can't afford a lawyer." "You don't have to. I work pro bono for cases like this." His voice softened. "Please. Just take the card. You don't have to decide anything tonight. But keep it. In case you change your mind." She didn't want to take it. Taking it meant admitting something was wrong. Taking it meant she couldn't pretend anymore. But her hand reached out anyway. Her fingers closed around the card. "Thank you," she said, even though she didn't know what she was thanking him for. Theodore nodded. "Be careful," he said. Then he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the alley until they disappeared into the city noise. Lavinia stood there in the dark, staring at the business card in her hand. Theodore Brennan, employment rights attorney. She shoved it deep into her purse and started walking home. Lavinia didn't sleep that night. She lay in her narrow bed in her tiny apartment, staring at the water-stained ceiling, and thought about Theodore Brennan's business card burning a hole in her purse across the room. A lawyer. He was a lawyer who wanted to help her. But help meant fighting back. Help meant standing up to Mr. Garrett. Help meant risking everything she had, which wasn't much, but it was all she had. By the time her alarm went off at 6, she'd made her decision. She wasn't going to call him. She was going to keep her head down, work her shifts, and survive. That's what she was good at. Surviving. She got dressed, pulled her hair back, and caught the bus to work. The morning shift was slower than usual. A few regulars came in for breakfast, some tourists studying their phones and their guidebooks. Lavinia moved through her tables on autopilot, her mind somewhere else. She was refilling coffee when she felt it. That prickle on the back of her neck that meant someone was watching her. She turned and saw Theodore Brennan sitting at table 12. The same table he'd sat at last night. Her hands started shaking. Coffee sloshed over the rim of the cup she was holding. "Damn it," she muttered, grabbing a napkin to wipe it up. When she looked up again, Mr. Garrett was standing beside Theodore's table. They were talking. Theodore's expression was calm, serious. Mr. Garrett's face was getting red. Oh God. He'd complained. Theodore had come back and complained, and now she was going to lose everything. Lavinia set down the coffee pot and walked toward them, her legs feeling like they might give out any second. Completely unacceptable, Theodore was saying. His voice was quiet but firm. And if you don't address it, I'll be forced to take legal action. Legal action? Mr. Garrett's laugh was ugly. Over what? Some waitress who can't do her job right. Over assault and workplace harassment. Theodore didn't raise his voice. Didn't have to. I have witnesses. I have recordings from last night. And I have a very clear case. The floor tilted under Lavinia's feet. Recordings? Mr. Garrett's eyes snapped to her, and the rage in them made her want to run. You talked to him. You little. I wouldn't finish that sentence if I were you, Theodore said. His voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath it now. Not with your lawyer standing right here. For the first time, Lavinia noticed the woman sitting across from Theodore. She was older, maybe 50, with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. She had a folder open in front of her, and she was watching Mr. Garrett like a hawk watching a mouse. Mr. Garrett, the woman said, my name is Patricia Chin. I'm Mr. Brennan's colleague. We'd like to discuss a settlement. A settlement? Mr. Garrett looked between them, his face purple now. For what? For the months of abuse you've inflicted on Miss Lavinia Thorne, Patricia said. She pulled a document from her folder and slid it across the table. We have testimony from 4 other employees who've witnessed your behavior. We have medical records showing injuries consistent with physical assault. And we have audio from last night that clearly demonstrates workplace harassment. Lavinia couldn't breathe. Medical records? Other employees? I never touched her, Mr. Garrett said, but his voice wavered. Theodore stood up. He rolled up his sleeve and showed his phone. On the screen was a photo, a close-up of a wrist covered in purple bruises. Lavinia's wrist. You grabbed her last night, Theodore said quietly. In front of me. I took this photo after you walked away. Time stamped. Location stamped. And I'm prepared to testify in court about everything I witnessed. The room was spinning. Lavinia grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. Mr. Garrett's mouth opened and closed like a fish. This is ridiculous. I'm calling the owner. Please do, Patricia said, because we've already spoken with him this morning. And he's very interested in settling this quietly before it becomes a lawsuit that costs him his restaurant. The silence that followed was so heavy Lavinia thought she might suffocate under it. Then Mr. Garrett turned to her. You did this, he said. His voice shook with rage. You vindictive little. Stop. Theodore stepped between them. Don't say another word to her. Not now. Not ever. Because if you do, I promise you, I will destroy you in court. Mr. Garrett's hands clenched into fists. For a second, Lavinia thought he might actually swing at Theodore. But then his shoulders sagged, and he turned and walked away, his footsteps heavy with fury. The dining room was silent. Every server, every customer, everyone had stopped to watch. Lavinia's legs finally gave out. She sank into the chair she'd been gripping, her whole body shaking. Theodore sat down across from her. His expression was gentle now, concerned. Are you okay? What did you do? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. What did you just do? I told you. I'm a lawyer. This is what I do. He leaned forward, his hands clasped on the table. I wasn't lying last night, Lavinia. I specialize in workplace abuse cases. And when I saw what he did to you, when I heard what he said, I knew I had to help. But the recordings. The other employees. How? I came back after you left last night, Theodore said. I waited in my car until the restaurant closed. Then I talked to the staff as they left. Offered them protection if they were willing to testify. 3 of them said yes immediately. A 4th called me this morning. Tears were streaming down Lavinia's face now. But why would you do all of this for me? You don't even know me. Theodore was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. 5 years ago, my sister worked at a restaurant a lot like this one. She had a manager who treated her the same way yours treats you. Worse, actually. And I didn't know. She never told me. Never said a word. He paused, and Lavinia saw pain flicker across his face. She killed herself, he said simply. Left a note saying she couldn't take it anymore. That she felt trapped. Worthless. That's when I changed my practice. Started focusing on cases like this. Because no one should ever feel so trapped that death seems like the only way out. Lavinia's hand flew to her mouth. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Theodore's voice was firm again. Just promise me something. Promise me you'll never let anyone make you feel worthless again. Because you're not. You're strong and brave, and you deserve so much better than this. Patricia cleared her throat gently. Miss Thorne, we need to discuss your options. The owner has agreed to terminate Mr. Garrett's employment effective immediately. He's also prepared to offer you a settlement for the abuse you've endured. A settlement? Lavinia could barely process the words. How much? Patricia named a figure that made Lavinia's head spin. Enough to pay off her mom's medical debt. Enough for first and last month's rent on a real apartment. Enough to maybe, possibly, go back to school. That's too much, she whispered. I don't deserve. Yes, you do, Theodore said firmly. You deserve that and more. And there's something else. He pulled another document from Patricia's folder. The owner is restructuring management. He's looking for someone to train as the new assistant manager. Someone who actually cares about the staff. Someone who knows what it's like to work these tables. He slid the paper across to her. He's offering you the position. If you want it, you'd get proper training, a real salary, benefits. And you'd be in a position to make sure no one else ever gets treated the way you were. Lavinia stared at the document. At her name typed at the top. At the salary figure that was more than she'd ever imagined making. I can't, she said. I'm not qualified. I don't know how to manage people. Neither did I when I started my practice, Theodore said. But I learned. And you will too. Because you already have the most important qualification, you have compassion. You understand what it's like to struggle. And that makes you exactly the right person for this job. Lavinia looked around the dining room. At the other servers who'd turned away when Mr. Garrett grabbed her. At the kitchen door where Chef Marcus probably stood right now, pretending not to listen. At the lavender plants on every table, their purple flowers soft and hopeful. What if I fail? She whispered. Then you fail, Theodore said simply. And you try again. That's how life works. But staying here, letting people like Mr. Garrett break you down day after day, that's not failing. That's giving up. And I don't think you're the type to give up. Something shifted in Lavinia's chest. Something that had been locked down tight for so long it hurt to feel it opening. She picked up the pen Patricia offered her. Her hand shook as she signed her name. 3 months later, Lavinia stood in front of the staff meeting room, her hands clasped in front of her, and looked at the 10 servers sitting around the table. I know most of you remember what it was like before, she said. When Mr. Garrett was here. I remember it too. Every single day. She took a breath. This was the hard part. The part where she had to be strong. That's never going to happen again. Not on my watch. If any of you ever feel unsafe, if anyone, customer or staff, makes you uncomfortable, you come to me. Immediately. No one gets to make you feel small. No one gets to put their hands on you. No one. Chef Marcus, now promoted to head chef, nodded from his seat in the back. 2 of the servers who'd testified against Mr. Garrett smiled at her. We're a team, Lavinia continued. And that means we look out for each other. It means we respect each other. It means we remember that everyone in this room is a human being who deserves dignity and kindness. She looked around at their faces. Some were new. Some had been here as long as she had. All of them looked like they wanted to believe her. I can't promise this job will always be easy, she said. But I can promise that you'll always be treated with respect. And I can promise that I'll fight for you. The way someone once fought for me. After the meeting, she found Theodore Brennan sitting at table 9. He came in once a week now, always ordering the same thing, coffee and the daily special. They'd become friends, in a way. He'd become something like the older brother she'd never had. How'd it go? He asked as she sat down across from him. Good, I think. She smiled. Scary. But good. That's usually how the important things feel. He took a sip of his coffee. My sister would have liked you. She would have been proud of what you're doing here. Lavinia felt tears prick her eyes. I hope so. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Theodore reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. What's this? Lavinia asked. Open it. Inside was a check. And a letter of acceptance from the City University's education program. I don't understand, she whispered. Part of the settlement included funds for continuing education, Theodore said. If you wanted to pursue it, I took the liberty of submitting your application. They were very impressed with your essay about overcoming adversity and wanting to help others. Lavinia's hands shook. I didn't write an essay. I know. I did. Theodore smiled. Based on our conversations. I hope you don't mind, but I knew you wouldn't apply yourself. You'd say you weren't good enough or it wasn't the right time or any of the other excuses people use when they're afraid of hoping for something better. The tears fell freely now. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. You can work here part-time and go to school part-time. It'll be hard, but you're strong enough. You've already proven that. Lavinia looked down at the acceptance letter. At the future she'd given up on 3 years ago suddenly real and possible again. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. For saving me. Theodore reached across the table and squeezed her hand gently. You saved yourself, Lavinia. I just gave you the tools. Everything else, the courage, the strength, the decision to keep going, that was all you. As she walked home that night, the acceptance letter tucked carefully in her purse, Lavinia thought about the girl who'd sat on that bathroom floor 3 months ago. The girl who'd believed she was nothing. Worthless. Trapped. That girl was still part of her. Would always be part of her. But she wasn't that girl anymore. She was Lavinia Thorne. Assistant manager. Future teacher. Survivor. And she was finally free.